are listening to Fast Track Podcast, the place to be to fast track your personal finance or fast track your business, or both, through a series of conversations with those who have learned it, done it, and made it. Before starting the episode, I have very exciting news to share with you. I am collaborating with financial imagineer Matthias Richter to launch the Fast Track Money course. This 6-week online course is designed to help young professionals in their 20s to early 40s to learn how to save more, earn more, and invest, using money as a tool to fulfill your dreams. We teach you the proven method that Matthias has been using himself in the last 20 years and achieved financial independence. So sign up today on fasttrack.live/money course to transform your relationship with money from today. Live for Free is passionate about bringing people up and making the world a better place. He believes that the strong should protect those that need it. We can make the world a better place by making ourselves better. This led him to become a firefighter, where he has made a difference in his own community for over 20 years. And personal development also began right away, as he worked with many high-output individuals. So he had to keep up. He has been married for 20 years with 2 children, and he's passionate about investing, teaching people how to live for free through his Twitter account. Let's hear about his story. Hi, Live for Free. Welcome to Fast Track Podcast.
Thanks, Yazzie. I love what you've been doing here. I'm a close follower of Imagineer, Art of Purpose, Millennial Money and Women, who are all on Twitter. And they have also been guests on your podcast. So I'm really pumped to be here.
Exactly. Thank you. I want to ask you about personal development, because you mentioned that you're passionate about personal development and you met some people and you have to keep up. What got you into this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. As a young man, I was fortunate enough to have received the book, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. Now, at this time in my life, I'm working at the local power company and I'm making a good wage. But the book, Awaken the Giant Within, had inspired me to take a deeper look at myself, know that there are bigger things for me, and just find that purpose that fit my soul. And from there, I decided that I was going to become a firefighter and become the best person I could be. This is back in the 90s. Tony Robbins is the biggest game in town. And I do have to say that if I had not read that Tony Robbins book, I don't think I would have become a firefighter.
Well, the other book I really like is the 7 Simple Steps to Financial Freedom, the money book from Tony Robbins. Yeah, that changed my view towards how I should manage my own money. I think everybody needs to read that book. And so which high output individuals you have worked with? How did they inspire you?
Well, the high output individuals I worked with were actually the firemen themselves, or the firefighters themselves. Now, to become a firefighter, you have to be fairly fit. And most of the people that I do work with are athletic. They're either high school athletes, former collegiate athletes. We have quite a few former pro hockey players that work with us, including former NHL players. So when I first became a firefighter, I thought I was fairly fit. But when I got there, and I mean, these guys, it was just unbelievable, like how incredibly fit, superhuman strength. It was jaw-dropping to see how strong some of these guys were. So from there, I realized that I actually had a lot of work to do, and I had to work hard just to keep up with the herd. And I mean, what a great place to be for a young man. And I was enthused to be there and, just looking forward to becoming the man that I wanted to become at that time.
I'm wondering how fit those firefighters are there in Canada. Is the bar much higher than the other countries?
Maybe. And, I don't want to toot our own horns, right? Many of the guys that I work with, they're also high output individuals off the job. And, like many of the firefighters I work with were real estate investors, business owners. Guys became lawyers, guys became pilots. We have martial arts black belts, triathletes. So there's just so many great examples for me to follow. And I did follow and I did learn. And I was lucky to be exposed to these individuals at a young age. I was raised by a single mother. We had difficult times growing up. and I didn't have a whole lot of positive male role models for me to follow. So it was just a great spot for me to be surrounded by these outstanding individuals. And, I just found myself being forced to become the person that I didn't even know that I wanted to be. And I'm just truly blessed. And one of the cool things now is I find myself in the position where I'm helping the younger firefighters bring up their own game. And, they see me hustling in the gym, running businesses, just the examples that I picked up from the older firefighters when I was a rookie. And it's such a cool place to be. And I'm really proud of being the work that is done right now.
And looking back, what do you think are the most important lessons you learned from those people or you learned from your own personal experience you want to share with the audience?
I mean, on top of being high output individuals, the amount that I learned about teamwork, leadership, being a kind and compassionate person, the experience is second to none. When you're a firefighter, the bond becomes very close. And my crew is amazing. And nobody loves each other the way we love each other. And I'm getting a little bit choked up here, but it's just a beautiful experience being a firefighter. So the most important lessons that I think I would learn would just really, and I mean, I don't want to sound cliche here, but it is mindset. Mindset will save your life. The proper mindset can make you fit. Mindset can bring you wealth. And if you have the mindset to become fit, you have the same mindset to bring you wealth and vice versa. So you'll find that it's not a linear process. There will be trial and error. Mindset just makes life easier. And I'm not talking about just positive self-talk here. I'm talking about the mindset where you educate yourself, you put it into practice, you find the answers to the questions that come up. And I just find it so difficult because there's so many people there that just don't even want to try and reach their full potential. And especially with these days, there's just so much help out there. The Fast Track podcast, for example, right? But I mean, people like Jocko Willink, Joe Rogan, David Goggins. There's just so much help out there. And these guys are mindset experts. And most of their content is completely free. So I highly recommend that people just take advantage.
And I really agree with you because last time, basically the new episode I just released with Faisal, he's a life coach, and we talk about 10x life. A lot of people they're living a life, you are not discover your full potentials, you just live day by day. But once you discover your own full potentials and think big and live a 10x life, it's much more fulfilling. You achieve more in life. It's really about the mindset. I agree.
Absolutely. And I mean, for me, like attitude too. So the attitude and mindset, I mean, for me, it's really the same thing. You make life work for you, not against you. Just know that challenges are coming, but just how you face those challenges. Any challenge can be broken down into manageable steps. And yeah, you're completely right. And I just want to spread the word, and I'm glad that you have me here.
Yeah, therefore I have you on this podcast so we can help our audience to improve their mindset or switch perspectives. Earlier you mentioned about this is the same thing, be it fitness, be it health, be it wealth creation. Then since when did you get into investing? And particularly you mentioned to me that real estate investing, that's what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a homeowner in my 20s. And, I was quite proud of myself for reaching this financial milestone. Back then, I owned the house and I had roommates live with me and help me pay down the mortgage. And in my 30s, my wife and I, we had a house built for us. And it was a nice house, great neighborhood. But I found that not only was it eating up a larger portion of our income, it was eating up a large amount of my time. Now, at this time, one of my favorite shows to watch was Income Property with Scott McGilvery on HGTV. And on this program, Scott helps new real estate investors add on or renovate income producing units to their primary house on their primary residence. And the new investors were able to significantly reduce their housing payments on their primary residence by adding on a rental unit. And I was like, perfect, I'm going to do this. And the more I thought of this, the more I got to thinking, if I did this concept to a larger scale, I could structure this so that I would have zero housing payments. So I got searching for a property that I could live in one unit, rent out the rest, work on the cash flow, and then have that cash flow cover all my expenses. Now, at this time, I have a family. My wife, who is a high output individual, I like to surround myself with high output individuals, Yazzie. So my idea was to move us out of our gorgeous 3,500 square foot house overlooking the city and have us move into an apartment so we can reduce our housing payments. Now, this was going to be a hard sell. At this time, I'm actually reading The 4-Hour Workweek with Tim Ferriss. What a great book. So I made the proposal to my wife. I ran the numbers with her and I said, now think on it. But before you give me an answer, I want you to read this book, The 4-Hour Workweek. Now, this was such a great book because it talks a lot about comfort zones, trying new things, and estimating what the worst that can happen. And, for us, the worst that can happen usually isn't that bad. For our case, if it wasn't going to work out, we could just sell the building and buy another house. And we live in Canada, so how bad could it be, right? And at this time, we're also overly busy. So she read The 4-Hour Workweek and said, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to make it work great. And I'm not sure, have you read The 4-Hour Workweek?
Both physical and digital versions.
Yeah, very good. So yeah, that's a great surprise. And I kind of figured it'd be on your bookshelf within arm's reach. So yeah, it was just such a great tool because the comfort zone and what's the worst that can happen calculator really helped hone my wife into the decision that, yeah, we can make this work. And if it doesn't work, we'll move on to something else, right? So from there, we hired a consultant that we could learn the business from, read books, and just learned all the ins and outs of multifamily real estate. Started to look for a property that would accommodate us and have the cash flow to make it work. And we found a building in a downtown location, an up and coming small town, about 40 minutes from where we live. And the price was right. And we never looked back. We had 2 commercial units with 4 residential units that needed some work. And the first year of the building, it was rough, but we enjoyed the process. The learning experience was everything I had hoped for. When we bought the building, the commercial space was vacant. So we used that as an opportunity to fix it up and we were able to get it rented. We didn't find a renter right away, but once we got a renter, it took a few months. We were off to the races. A couple of the residential units were also unoccupied. So we combined those 2 units and made it into a bigger unit. And, the building that we bought, it's an old bread factory. And so it's a nice open floor plan for us to work with. Through the whole process, my wife and I, we worked together and it brought us closer. We learned a lot about each other. We learned a lot about ourselves. And it was when you take on a large and complicated process or a project, you become better at handling large and complicated projects, which is a great skill to have. So once we started to live for free, we found ourselves better able to take care of ourselves, better take care of each other, and live life more on our terms.
And how did you decide to start and invest in this project if you have never had something similar done in the past? Where did you get this confidence to start with?
Well, really the confidence started with having, we call him a consultant, but really it was a mentor. So, we had hour-long calls with him. We would find deals and then we'd go through those deals with him. And he would teach us the ins and outs of what was good with the deal, what was bad with the deal. And the more you do that, the better you become at the process. And from that, we were able to find a building where the cash flow worked and it had the capacity for us to move our family in. And the funny thing is when we decided to do this, that we were going to sell our house, move into an apartment building, we actually didn't tell anybody else what we were up to. Once we were fully financially committed, everybody thought we were crazy, but it turned out very well. We actually still live in our loft. It's 2,500 square feet. It has its own entrance and everything is a 1 to 2 minute walk away. The park is right across the street. We back onto a river, and we just love how much privacy that we have here. And when we started to live for free, our opportunities rose dramatically. And with a few short years, we had the time and the money to do anything that we wanted.
So you moved to a smaller place, or you invest in commercial and residential properties, then you had a cash flow, then you save money from your mortgage that you would have to spend on it. Is that how
Yeah,
you?
that's exactly how it is. So we do live in the building. We have so our building, the cash flow from the stores that we rent out and from the other residential units that we rent out covers all the expenses of where we live. So essentially that's how I came up with live for free. I have my Twitter account and I try and keep a positive mindset, and I talk a little bit about real estate. So once when you're anybody, their housing costs are always almost the highest expense that they have. If
Yeah.
you can get rid of that, that really just frees up a lot of capital to do other things.
Yes, we talk about the big three: the housing, transportation, and food. And I have two questions. One is, how did you feel after you move into a smaller apartment versus what you had before? How long does it take you to adjust? And then second question is, how did you really get to make the decision to downgrade? Because mentally it's just really difficult. You live in a very comfortable place, then you have to downgrade. Like, how you overcome this barrier?
Yeah, no, those are great questions. And I mean, to adjust, yeah, it was. Psychologically, we're driven to believe that when you own a house and you live there, you're the king of that castle, right? But you're not the king of the castle until it's completely paid off. The bank owns the house and they're the king of that castle. So, yeah, it was really hard psychologically to get over that. And when I say downgrade, it may have been a housing downgrade, but it was actually a lifestyle upgrade. Having the cash to do things that we want. We travel a lot, we get outside a lot, we use our money to buy other income producing assets. So it's a really liberating feeling. Even if you can lower or reduce your housing payments by 50%, it really makes an amazing difference. So when it comes to how do you deal with these things, when you have more money available to do the things that you want, it feels great.
Yeah, it's freedom. You free yourself from the housing expenses.
That's right. And that's what I'm here for, and that's my message that I spread is like everyone talks about reducing costs, but when they say reducing costs, it's like, okay, maybe get rid of Netflix, don't drink Starbucks. Those things, yeah, absolutely, they make a difference. But look at the bigger picture, look at the bigger things that are eating up that you feel like you don't have control over. You do have control over those bigger expenses. I have a little 2008 VW Golf that I burn back and forth to work with. It's just those sorts of things. I ride my bike a lot. Yeah, those will save money too. But if you can reduce your housing costs, that's really the big one.
I did the research in the past for an article. In some countries, people pay 1/3 of their monthly salary for housing cost. In London, I think it's up to 42%. And using your concept, if they manage to live for free, it's like 33 to 42% of the income. It's now available for you to, live your life, travel, or, eat better food, or, do other things. It's quite a big chunk of your income, right?
It's a great concept. So when we did the research, like the live for free concept, it just wouldn't work in the city that we lived. I'm from Ontario, Canada, where the housing prices are high. Any real estate is high. So we did move to a smaller town where the real estate burden was a little bit better. And so I'm not saying that you'll be able to do it within your city that you live in, but you'll be able to do it somewhere within 1 hour of that city that you're living in. It is a concept that anyone can do, especially if you have a house, because you could sell that house, use that cash, which you do need cash to invest into multi-residential or commercial real estate.
And you mentioned several times cash flow. Is cash flow a very important factor to look at when someone, start to invest in real estate properties?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, cash flow is just so difficult to gauge worldwide or even nationwide, right? You have to find a real estate expert in your area that will help you work with the cash flow. And the great thing about when you're investing in multi-residential real estate or commercial real estate is the cash flow numbers are always available, right? They have to provide what the cash flow has been in the past few years. And then you can project if you can make more cash flow from that current cash flow. Yeah, it's very important. And I mean, when it comes to real estate, multi-residential real estate or rental real estate, that's the number one factor.
Right. And what are the common mistakes people make when purchasing a home or investing in real estate? Do you think?
I would say the most, like for buying a house, the most common mistake is people underestimate the variable costs that come with owning a house. And number one, it's an incredible amount of work to buy a house. Like even let's just say off the top of our heads, $100,000 down payment. That is a lot of money to try and raise if you have a job. Could that $80,000 be used somewhere else? That's a question for later that we can answer. But so when you buy a house, you have fixed costs, right? You have your mortgage, taxes, utilities, insurance. Those are your fixed costs. They're the same every single month. But when we talk about variable costs, when you buy a house, almost every facet of that house will have to be replaced within 20 to 25 years. And I'm talking roofs, eaves troughs, windows, doors, bathrooms, appliances, all that, all those sorts of things. And I don't know about you guys in Europe, but in Canada, we are renovation crazy. We are the birthplace of HGTV. The renovations are happening all the time. Would you like to do a quick exercise with me, Yazzie?
Yeah, sure. And also, by the way, I like to watch HGTV.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? What a great show. And I mean, I've found out through Twitter that a lot of them are scripted, but it's still so fun to watch. You get great ideas. And yeah, but HGTV, I'm sure it costs people a lot of money watching that show because you always want to update what you have, right?
Yeah.
But so with a lot of people, I do go through exercise, and it's the just going through the replacement costs of a house. Let's say you own this house for 20 years. So we just run through the replacement costs. So like we'll start at the top, and then we'll just work our way down. So let's say a roof, like how much off the top of your head do you think a roof would cost?
Oh, if you talk about in Switzerland, I think 10K, 20K.
10K, 20K. Okay, so we'll stick with U.S. prices, and we'll say $12,000. The eaves troughs, like the rain takeaway, we'll just say $2,000 off the top of our head. Furnace and HVAC, like heating, ventilation, and cooling, we can just say like $5,000. Does that seem appropriate?
Okay, I really have no idea, but
you have no idea. Okay, well, I'm a contractor. I've flipped houses, and I have lots of contractor friends, so I have a fairly good idea of what things cost.
Okay,
but, we'll just say 2 bathrooms. Like if you have a 20-year-old bathroom, you're going to want it replaced, right? So we'll say just $10,000 a bathroom. So there's 20. Now kitchens. This one is actually hard to pin down. Some people will spend $15,000. Some people will spend $50,000. So I'm just going to stick with $20,000 to replace a kitchen, and $25,000 for new windows and doors. And I'm going to say flooring. Let's say it's a 2,000 square foot house. We'll go with about $20,000 for flooring. Now, appliances are a funny thing too, right, Yazzie? They don't last for 20 years.
No, yeah, they don't.
Yeah, and I would say maybe 10 years. So if we did 2 sets of appliances, I would say that's probably close to $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
And replacing a driveway, whether you go asphalt or concrete, I'm going to go with a low number, and I'm just going to say $4,000. Like a patio and a deck, I'll just stick with about $5,000. And landscaping is just impossible to even come up with a general number. I've seen people spend $300,000 on landscaping.
What?
Yeah, while you think about a pool, rock features, gardens, like people really. And when you have a pool here in Canada, you have to have a 4-foot fence that locks. So having a pool here in Canada, which many people do, it is actually really expensive. But for landscaping, I'm just going to give a little low number of $5,000 because I think a lot of people are going to argue with my numbers that I give. But essentially, all these things, if you own a house for 20 years, you're going to be replacing them once, at least once. When it comes to a bathroom, I bet you there's people that renovate their bathroom every 10 years. So I don't think my numbers are outlandish. And these are today's numbers, and they're only going to get higher. So when we add all these numbers up, man, I kind of lost count here, but I'm going to say it's probably $130,000, right? And if you divide that number, $130,000, by over 20 years, that's 240 months. That's almost $600 a month. That's a lot of money, especially if your fixed costs are $2,000 a month. We're pushing 30%. And so I think a lot of people are overlooking these numbers, and nobody is giving the real cost of what it costs to own a house. The bankers won't tell you, the realtors won't tell you, contractors won't tell you. It's just something that you have to find out the hard way. Now, I know a lot of people are going to argue with the numbers that I've given here, but the government does allow owners and landlords to write down the depreciation on equipment and property, because as soon as a building is erected, it begins to deteriorate from day one. The variable costs on homes is being overlooked. I would never say don't buy a house. I really believe that everyone should create the life that pleases them. But I really want homeowners to start being realistic of what their home is costing them. If people are renovation crazy, which a lot of people are, it's even higher than $600 a month. Renovations right now are getting really expensive. Lumber's expensive, labor's expensive. They are much higher than people are willing to admit.
It's interesting because in Canada, you talk about like renovation crazy, and I checked out some new buildings in Switzerland. They are more or less all the same, standard toilets, standard kitchens, standard appliances. It can be from, the oven can be from Zug, this V-Zug company in Switzerland,
Okay.
or can be from Germany, the Bosch or Siemens, like pretty much they're all standard. And you don't have much room to customize it unless before they build a building. Then you can say, okay, I want to have this wall 1 meter to the left and this plug and there and there. But it's pretty much all standard, I would say.
It's all standard. But so would they last for 20 or 25 years, or do they get replaced within then, would you say?
Yeah, I think you need to do renovations every now and then, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Okay. Because, well, and you live in a harsh climate too. Roofs do need to be changed quite quickly. If you live in a very sunny environment, that has its downfalls too. But yeah, we are renovation crazy here in Canada. But another thing here in Canada and probably the US is like our average house size is about 2,000 square feet. I'm just trying to calculate what that would be in meters.
Less than 200 square meter.
So we have larger houses here in North America, and therefore we probably have larger renovation costs. And thanks to HGTV, the renovations just happen a lot more than people think.
And
right?
When you live in such a big house, you need to pay more for electricity, for heating, for even maintenance on flooring. Everything is, much more.
Yeah. And my mom lived in the UK for a few years. And so when I would go visit, I was actually really surprised how efficient everything is in Europe. You do more with less space, and it really doesn't make that much of a difference on your lifestyle. So yeah, that's another thing that we here in North America, we need to just be more, have the lifestyle more of the Europeans, where we do more with less space.
I think also you have the luxury, maybe not in major cities in the US and Canada, but some of the housing prices are quite low, relatively lower than certain cities in, let's say, Singapore, Hong Kong, UK, London, or Switzerland. So of course, not everyone can buy a big house. So they have to stick with like a reasonable living space. I wonder why you need, I don't know if it's the same in Canada, why you need like a living room and a family room. I never get to understand this concept.
Yeah, where it's because we can have the space, I guess, and I'm guilty too, because my wife and I, we have our own living room, and then our daughter, still have a daughter at home. She has her own little living room there too. So yeah, that's a good question, and we can definitely do more with less.
when I watch some home renovation shows, I couldn't comprehend why you need two like living rooms, just two different names. And the other thing is the breakfast area and the formal dining area. Like, what's the difference between where you eat versus the formal dining area where you eat?
Yeah, absolutely. And just more places to clean, really, and taking up more of your time. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's another food for thought for the Fast Track podcast.
So my one of the last question is, if you look back in your previous years with real estate investing and you downgrade, what you wish you should have done earlier if you can start it over again?
Well, so the way most real estate investors get into the real estate game, and this is a common mistake. I didn't do this, but this is a common mistake that new real estate investors have is they'll remortgage their primary residence and then use that money to either buy a rental house or a condo. And they've actually used up a lot of their available cash from their house. And so when things go wrong with either the primary residence or the rental unit, they've run out of money and they've underestimated the costs. So they get discouraged. They'll sell the income property at a loss and then just go tell everybody that real estate sucks. And it's a common mistake. It happens, it's just quite common in the real estate investment industry. That's how a lot of investors, they just, yeah, I'm not finding the words right now, but they just can't have a tough time following through the tough times, which happens in the first couple of years of real estate investing. And another big mistake that new investors have is they won't educate themselves. And what's there to know, really? Buy the place, get a Facebook ad, and get it rented. And so I really recommend that you educate yourself. You read a book, find a mentor, hire a real estate consultant, take courses. If you're going to put 6 figures into investing in real estate, you can pay a few $1,000s to educate yourself. And so for me, and that was my wife's doing, she said, yeah, we're going to do this, but we're going to educate ourselves first, which I wasn't going to do, right? I watched HGTV and I've seen others do it and I know I can do it, but it was just such a smart move for us to educate ourselves. And yeah, so I mean, if I had to do it again, of course I would have started earlier and I would have used a CMHC backed mortgage, which is kind of like a Fannie Mae mortgage, to buy a triplex and just rent out the units and then even have roommates in my main unit as I was a young person. So I think I have a daughter that's 18 and we do talk about real estate often. And I think that's the way that she's going to do it. And I'm really looking forward to guiding her through this. And she's already asked for my help. So it's going to be really fun to watch.
And since your Twitter name is Live for Free, give us some ideas. How can someone live for free?
Here's the thing is I've actually been having a hard time finding people that do what I do, that will house hack or real estate hack. It's actually not that common, but so I do send the question out to Twitter every now and then, and people have come back with living with their parents, and as many people do, and you can do that for as long as the relationship works. And you can house hack, buy the house where you have the roommates. I've done this and it's worked well. I've heard of people living in camper vans and they actually live a really good life. Just, they can travel where they want. It is quite cheap to live that way. And I've also heard of people, I have a couple that bought a small resort and they live on the resort and the cash flow from that resort pays for everything. Now, this is a goal of mine. I want to move to a Caribbean location where I can get a property, and whether it be bunk houses or a hotel or resort, and I'll stay there and operate it. And, the staycation, right? And yeah, that's a goal of mine, to house hack or real estate hack in a nicer environment or nicer climate.
Love it. I was obsessed with tiny houses a few months ago when the lockdown just started. And I've been watching a lot of tiny house apartments. I wanted to move into a tiny house because it's more economical, it saves money, and it's just cute. And then after a while, during this lockdown, and then my husband
Right.
and I was saying, like, we will go crazy. We just stay this 20 square meter tiny house.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're going to try something new, maybe try it during normal times. But yeah, I love the tiny house idea, and it doesn't have to be forever, right? It can just be for a couple years. There's experiences out there that people will just negate right off the bat, saying, "I could never do this." Well, if you say you can never do it, of course it's not going to happen. But if you want to try something, then by all means try it. You're your own person. Go ahead. And I mean, that's why I always go back to the 4-hour work week. What's the worst that can happen? Calculate it out and just go on from there. It's so fun.
Yeah. And I like this saying that move yourself. Actually, you are not a tree, because oftentimes when we think about buying a property, we like kind of tied to the property. It's very difficult for people to think like maybe it's a transition period, maybe you can downgrade or upgrade in the future. But once we buy a property, kind of seeing ourselves living there for 30, 40, 50 years.
I love it. I love it. And it even comes down to comfort zone, right? When you can get yourself out of your comfort zone, great things will happen. Different experiences and meeting different people. Like if you're living in the same house for the same amount of time, it does get comfortable, and you'll even find yourself stagnating if you don't force yourself to grow. So getting yourself out of your comfort zone is just a great way to grow.
Exactly. You can grow as a person, you can grow your net worth as well.
That's right. That's the name of the game.
Can you tell our audience again what's your Twitter handle, and then they can follow you there?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, and it's just live for free.
Love it. Thank you so much for coming here today. It was such a pleasure talking to you, and I hope the audience will find this content interesting.
Absolutely. I mean, follow me on Twitter. I'm working on more things, and stay tuned. There's more to come.
Okay, I will watch it.
Excellent. Thank you, Yazzie. And I love what you've been doing here. Thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun talking to you.
Same here. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Fast Track Podcast. Show me your support by liking this episode and sharing it with your friends. Join the Facebook group at Fast Track Podcast 1, or you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and of course the homepage fasttrack.life. See you in the next episode.